So let's just kind of dive into the first one. Do you want to share a little bit about what your emotional state was like as a child when you
Well,
were?
this has come to me after writing these two books and thinking about it a lot. I convinced myself, I've come to the conclusion that a person is a combination of their genes and their environment. The environment is that first 18 to 25 years, the family, neighborhood, schools, whatever it is. And, being the fact that I was in orphanages, foster homes, my father spent maybe 3 years out of the first 18 years with me. My mother was supposedly dead.
Mhm.
And on holidays, no one, even at the orphanage on Sundays, I would rarely visit it. Most everybody had one parent that would come. Dad was always at sea.
Right.
At college, it was very difficult because the campus cleared out, and you were there all alone. So over that period of time, I became sad, you know, very low and angry. And what
Yeah.
happens is you pick up a demon that sits with you. And don't let anybody tell you that's what, your whole concept. You got to recognize it's a demon. You collect it. It's part of you.
Yep.
And even on Sundays, sometimes my wife will say to me, "Here he comes again, that demon." So be careful with it. So once you recognize it, and I recognize it probably early on in my 30s. I started to realize this Sunday or holiday problem because when you have kids, holidays are a happy time. And sometimes you're not too happy. Why aren't you happy? So I answered that. But anyway, I was angry. I was sad. I was sad and low and angry. And it's even more difficult at college. I had one very good friend who used to take me home for Christmas. That was even harder because you saw everybody having a good time, and everybody's with family, and you have no family. And no
Right.
one came to any of my graduations either.
Yeah.
Either grammar school, public, high school, college, or graduate school. So you pick up this demon and you have to deal with it. And once you know you have it, you say this is something that happens to you on holidays and on Sundays. And so you start cope with it, and that's basically what it. But as a child, I wasn't in college. I was a little bit of an angry young man,
Yeah.
but it made me mysterious, and some of the girls liked that sort of thing.
That's funny.
Looking back at that, I didn't know it at the time,
Right, right.
but
Gosh. And I totally understand that. You and I have a bit of a similar story, not quite the same. I was with a grandma instead of a foster care family and an orphanage, but um yeah, I hadn't seen my dad and since I was 5. My mom was in and out, and holidays were hard because she'd say she was going to come and visit. And then, I'd sit in the window and wait for her, and she'd never come. And then there'd always be presents from her, but it was from my grandma. It was never from her, and you figure these things out later as you go and adds to that demon that kind of sits with
no,
you.
no, it has an effect on you. You carry
Yeah,
it with you.
you
You
do.
can't you can't get rid of all of those instances which happen. If you're lonely only part of the time, you're lonely regularly for 18 years or so.
Right.
That's part of you, and you
Yep.
can argue, oh, I can get rid of that. No, you can't. You have it, and you have to deal with it. And once
Hmm.
you understand you have it, then it's like having a sore, or you just don't take care of it. And I think that's the
Yeah.
case, though. You sound like you're in a similar situation, and each person does react a little differently. I have found a few people in my cadre like you that can actually get rid of it. They smile and so forth and enjoy and so, but not many. Most and
Right.
some never get rid of it and don't understand it. And that those people you can tell they're always angry, and
Yeah.
they're angry because what happens when when you're existing with grandma, you keep asking one very difficult unanswerable question: why me?
Yep.
And that's so painful.
Yep.
And that's what happens with kids. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
but to deny it would be foolish. I know what it is, and I'm not the happiest guy on a holiday, but I work
Right.
at it. But I know here it comes, and I'm gonna work on parts of the holiday to make sure I enjoy some of it, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Okay, so you mentioned the importance of not having a pity party when you're feeling isolated. What personal strategies did you use to kind of combat those feelings of loneliness, particularly during the holidays when you were younger?
Two simple words: keep busy.
Yeah. Oh, I feel
Not
that too, my friend.
work. There's always work at holidays. I used to work in the post office on Christmas, and they always need people. Then I would pitch mail for at least 12 hours. They would call, my number to please leave the building. I would just could hang around until they catch you. Then I usually one summer I took 2 jobs. I worked in Highboy Hamburger until 1 o'clock in the morning. Then I appeared at the library at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I used to sleep in the stacks. And in my book, you'll see that the lady caught me sleeping. She said, "Shh, he works at night. Don't wake him up." But I keep busy. Now, not necessarily work. You can volunteer. You can
Right.
do all kinds of different things. You can find a place you want to visit and find a friend and go there. But this is an answer to your questions farther on. But it was basically figure out something you're going to do. Don't go into the holiday unprepared if you
Right.
have this kind of demon. So, but my game plan was keep busy. I waited on tables, and maybe I'll answer all your questions basically. Unfortunately, it's a bad interviewer. One of the things about planning it, if you join a group, let's assume you're working, and the guys in the post office, we always went out for a beer afterwards.
Right.
One famous story I have is that I traveled across country to see my father 3.5 days by train, one way, 2 days with dad, 3.5 days back. And I got there just in time to wait on tables New Year's Eve. Sounds terrible. On the other hand, a lot of nice, attractive young ladies and guys and so forth. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, the party was over. A lot of booze left over. We went out and had a good time. I was
Yeah.
part of a group, you know.
Right.
So when you work, you basically become part of a group. Or if you're involved in volunteering, you end up being part of a group, and that's one of the secrets.
Okay.
And yeah,
All right. So let's see. Take control of their circumstances. Okay, so let's talk about the jealousy because you kind of touched on that, like when you went home, with a friend for college. And I get that. It's like a double-edged sword, right? Like you're being included and you're witnessing this perfect holiday, but you didn't get this
no,
because life dealt you.
you get two kinds of those experiences. When I'm one of them is all of the people don't want you there because your friend brings you home and she doesn't need another person to take care of, and you're
Mhm.
obviously needy because he's told her about you and so forth. And there's that kind of person which isn't very comfortable. The second
Right.
thing is, the second part is the person just feels sorry for you and keeps helping you at all possible, being nice to you and so forth, and you can see it.
Right.
And so both
Right.
things are very uncomfortable. The other one, of course, is you get to a place where nobody knows you except this one person, and so he or she has to kind of keep track of you. So it's not a great experience. I had a very good friend, and I became close to his family. I went home 2 times with him for Christmas, only for Christmas. I didn't stay for New Year's, but he was very nice, and his mother and father were terrific, and so that did help a lot. But I never felt part of it. Actually, I went out with his sister for once and so forth, but it just wasn't part of it. And they all had, those days, kids from orphanages were really unusual. They didn't
Hmm.
go to private colleges. Everybody was kind of curious about who I was and so forth. So that extra time was not comfortable. So
Right.
what you really want to be at a holiday time is just part of the gang.
Mhm.
Everybody enjoying it, enjoying the experience, not each individual's experience.
Right. Right. Okay, so you talked also about education and resilience. Do you want to tell us what you think
Well,
played in
I
your?
think one of the things you can do when you are lonely is pick a project, something you always want to do.
Oh, the trauma is strong because I did the same thing. I graduated college before high school. Just throw yourself into something that you can do.
The project, or even a book that you've always wanted to read. Say,
Yep.
and if you get tangled up in a very good book that's reasonably long, you can use up a cool 2 or 3 days, and you also have something to discuss. But a project in Christmas time, if you at the college, there are laboratories you can work in. There's experiments that you can get paid for. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of things. But that's why I say the key to this whole thing is a little bit of pre-planning. A
Yeah.
lot of people stop what they're doing and all of a sudden it's holiday. Now that's almost a disaster because then you wake up in the morning and nobody's there, and you're all alone, and you have no facility. But if you plan to do something, even you just buy the book, but more importantly, a project or an experiment or a volunteer job, something that takes you into a group where you pick up a group, and at that point in time, all kinds of things can happen. I go back to Christmas Eve. There was a very attractive young lady that was there, and we had a ball. I mean, she didn't know me, I didn't know her, but we both, had to work, and so we
Right.
immediately had a connection.
Right.
And what's nice about there's one positive thing about being poor and having this background is that work had a purpose. If
Yeah.
I didn't have to earn money, it would be less enthusiastic about going waiting on tables. But I became part of a group. I did my work. I earned some money, which was important to me. So it was
Right.
kind of a trifecta, and I felt very comfortable with that.
Okay. All right. So now you've been married 60 years almost. Congratulations.
And I tell my wife, I said, 60 years, 60 and out. I mean, man, because Vic for murder gets out in 60. I mean, no, she's very important to all this, by the way, and
Yes.
she also is sensitive to the demon, and she'll poke me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, here it comes. Be careful. Let's try to enjoy this and so forth."
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
fact, one of her, I asked her if she could have anything she wants. She said, "I want you to be a happier person." And I said, "I'll try," and I do try, and she keeps helping me do that. But the question was, being married for 60. The key there is having a partner. I really believe lonely people
Yeah.
should, if they can and they're lucky, find someone they can share their life with, who supports them, and you can support them and they will support you, and you do things together, and all of a sudden that loneliness gets pushed out quite a bit, because you can't be lonely when you have 3 children and 8 grandchildren. It doesn't work. You have Thanksgiving dinner and there's 12 people there and they're all got you're running around and so forth. Or we go away on with my marriage. I do 2 things. We celebrate, and that's one of the things you do when you're lonely. When you're really celebrating, you can't be lonely. When I'm
Right.
at a 50th birthday party with 100 people and a band, and and everybody with presents and talking and so forth.
Yeah.
My wife the same way. When her birthday party, we have big party people. We have
Yeah.
every year in Greenwich we have Christmas party, 125, 150 people. And in that you can't be lonely because there's all kinds of people who want to see you. And our Christmas party was very, very well attended because people saw people, as one person said, that they don't see all year round. We had this very diverse group of friends. But given that, I had to sort of go and talk to each one of them. And you go through 4 or 5 hours, you don't even think about being lonely, because you don't
Right.
think sadness, and you see Joe for the first time in 8 or 9 months, and Mary's pregnant, and you talk to her, and you bounce back and forth, and you have a few drinks, and so parties are very important. We do Christmas party. We do a big Thanksgiving is always large. Nantucket this year, we're going to have a bunch of kids up, and they're going to fly them up, and then sit there with their friends. So Halloween is always a big one.
Yeah.
Everybody dresses up, and we do trick or treating. So that's key. One of the other things I found with being married is spending time together. I mean, I recommend young marrieds take a car trip every year.
Hmm.
Spend 4 days in a car. You'll talk about everything. So my game about staying, how did you stay married? Well, one word is listen. But the
Yeah.
other real process is to make sure you're there when they change.
Hmm.
Each one of us changes every year, and if you not pay attention to the change, over a period of years, you end up living with a stranger. But if you
Hmm.
can accept that change, understand that change, and work with that change, then you'll stay married for 60 years, because in many respects, that's what it's all about. I mean,
Yeah.
basically understanding the other person, see how he or she is changing, change yourself to some extent, or let her know that you're not changing, and get together and discuss it. So we took a car trip. When the kids were in camp, we actually spent almost every summer in a car in Europe. And what we do with the family, which is really, I think, a secret I pass on to people, is, and this you can't get lonely. We take the kids, and when we were poor, we had rented a little tiny boat, but put all of us on the little boat. What's nice about a boat trip at Christmas time or any other time is at night, guess what? Nobody gets away. In a
Hmm.
hotel, they can leave. Ski trip, they're gone.
Right.
And so we go down. We have 11 or 12 people on a boat this Christmas, and you just get a chance to talk and you
Yeah.
reconnect. And what the key to relationships is basically exchange of experiences.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, my kids, every other year we took them someplace exotic,
Yeah.
and those experiences that they connect with each other and with us. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of corny, because a lot of the old days, respect your father and mother, and that's what you want now. It's a very sophisticated community. There's alternatives. There's no social media when we were little. No, today what you want to have is experiences. So make sure you plan that, and those kind of experiences. Again, you do things that offset loneliness, that doesn't allow loneliness in the room.
Yeah.
When you're in Egypt floating down the Nile, you're not lonely. When you're
Right.
in the jungle in Africa, you're not lonely. I mean, so these are the kind of things you do. They're it sounds a little bit over planned, but if you want to beat it, you have to pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. Great advice. I've been married. It'll be 22 years in November.
That's
So
good.
yeah,
Celebrate.
yeah. So I agree with a lot of what you said there too. That's definitely the secret, every
You
time
know,
small
spending time
things too.
together, date night, and once a week, or don't go a couple months without spending a weekend alone someplace. I don't care. We used to went to the Jug Inn when that was like $8 a night, but it was fun, and the people next door having a fist fight, but we always remember that. She said
Oh my
you took
gosh.
me to that place. We stayed up all night listening to this couple having. But anyway, those are experiences.
Funny. That's funny. Okay, so let's see. So many people struggle with the pressure of holiday expectations. How have you learned to let go of societal or cultural pressure around the holidays?
This takes a lot of work because if you're placed in a situation where you have to do something in a relationship, I try to always lower my expectations, go in with as low expectations as I can, and also a couple of mantras. First of all, never be a victim. That if you can get rid of that, use your energy to decide what you're going to do next. That's very important. But the other mantra is, let's try and have a good time. It sounds, awful, but that's exactly what you have to do. And then when you get into a situation like that, find a person or persons. You don't have to be the life of the party. Find someone you can talk to and ask that person about themselves and get involved in that kind of a conversation. Because what happens then is you find out you're kind of all the same. We're all struggling with the same stuff. And if you get that into somebody early in an evening or early in an experience, you'll find out that that's very satisfying. And of course, that person becomes somebody you can go back to on a relationship. With children, it's even easier. That you ask them what they're doing, you'll find out that they want to talk also. So I find that it's not easy though. You got to lower expectations if possible. Don't ever go into something thinking this is going to be great because in general, holidays are a mixed bag. They really are.
Right.
It's interesting. I give commencement speeches, and I said it's probably the only ceremony where everybody's happy.
Right.
Even the weddings, there's somebody that says, "Why does he marry her?"
Hmm.
But at graduation, everybody's happy.
I love
That's
it.
not a good answer to that question. I have trouble answering that. I said, try to avoid things that will spoil that. Try to think about those things you don't like. Example, we're going to have the kids up for Thanksgiving, and my daughter is left of left, and I'm right of middle. So, I'm going to make sure I don't discuss politics with her. And so you just find things that might spoil your experience and just stay away from it. Don't be afraid to avoid something because this is
Right.
a holiday.
Right.
Holiday should they enjoy. So take out all the things that don't bring up, don't have an organ symphony to start off with. Say all these things hurt.
I
This
love
is
it. Okay.
everybody starts off and saying this hurts and that hurts. No, that's not what you want to do. Take all that, put it over here. Talk about nice things and so forth. Because there's plenty of time to be angry and be low and be but
Right.
holidays. That's not, I said that I said, but spend some time planning and thinking about it. And also, one of the things you can do with holidays is confer with a partner. But don't be afraid. My wife, as I talk to her, she'll say, make sure you don't do this, don't do that. She pays attention for 60 years. She learned
Right.
something.
Right. That's funny. All right. So you've turned adversity into opportunity all throughout your life. What would you say to someone who's feeling overwhelmed by holiday stress and doesn't know how to move forward or make it more meaningful that you haven't already said? You got a tidbit in there?
The one thing I do is do spend some time alone. It's take a long walk and sort out that what you just said. He feels stressful. She feels stressful. Feels uncomfortable. Sort of think about that. Take a little time by yourself, all alone, just not all alone, and try to sort that out into little. Break it up into they say how to solve a problem. Break it up into little parts, and then of course if you have a partner, take it or a friend, go back and say, no, this is something I've really thought about. I'm really stressed out about this. And here's what I've really thought about by myself. Can you help me out? And that might be maybe, but first try to spend time because a lot of things times when you think about the stress and everything, this is all foolish. I shouldn't be stressed about this, and it does disappear. It really
Right.
does.
Right.
But you got to get. I have a big. One of my pitches is there are only two constants in life. One is your inner voice, and the other is change. and if you got to develop this conversation with your inner voice, where you and it keeps talking back and forth, and if you become successful with that, you can eliminate some of these things very easily, and or you can put them aside. But you got to spend that time with that inner voice. And I'm pitching this new course that I'm working on, which is for people that are college freshmen, high school seniors, where they ask themselves a lot of very simple questions and start to get the answers over a 4 or 5 year period. And I think that's the same
That's
thing we
awesome.
talk about is that sit down and ask yourself these questions. And just like when you say, well, yeah, I'm comfortable with this thing. Why am I uncomfortable? Well, I'm uncomfortable because way back there, nobody came to the orphanage. Well, that's not the possibility today. Everybody's coming. They all want to see.
Everybody's coming.
Yeah, exactly. And so you say, well, that's kind of foolish. And then all of a sudden that it doesn't go away, but it minimizes. It goes
Right.
off in a direction. That's
Yeah.
what you want to do.
You're not
Basically,
negating the pain you felt in the
no, no,
orphanage. Nobody was
no.
coming, but you're recognizing that everybody's coming now and you don't have to feel
And
that way today.
this time it's different. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I
what you're
love that.
getting back when you feel lonely on a holiday, and you've got all people all around you, you're going back there, and you don't have to go back there. That's already back there.
Right.
So I
There.
think, but if you recognize that's what you're doing and stop doing it, you one leg up on it. I just don't want anybody to think that it's easy. That's another thing you ought to accept is recognize this is not easy, and you got to work at it constantly, and it's worth it because
Right.
once you really enjoy a holiday, you again that's another thing. Once you really enjoy a holiday, you start to use that experience the next time, and that's what you should be thinking about is when you had a great holiday or a great party. These
Right.
are all great questions, not simple though, Danielle.
No, I know. They weren't simple, but you did great. I've made it through a little bit of your book. It's awesome. I can't wait to finish it. And then, so what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and I will make a draft and then I will send it back for you guys to approve. And then I'll let you know once it's published and send a link and you can feel free to share it or have Tracy share Tracy, right? Tracy? That's your name?
Tracy, yeah, Tracy.
Yep. Have Tracy share it or
Tell
you
me a
know,
little more about you.
oh gosh, a little bit about me. Okay, let's see. I had a very strange childhood too. Back in the 80s was kind of right when people started to get divorced a little more, but when I was young, it was still kind of weird. And then it was weirder because I lived with grandma and didn't see my dad from the time I was 5. My mom was in and out of legal trouble when I was in 7th grade. She entered witness protection program and left ended up in Montana, which is how I ended up here a few years later. We came, my grandma took us on a trip right before I was supposed to start college as a journalism major and didn't tell us where we were going. It was just a road trip. She knew where my mom was, but wasn't supposed to and didn't tell us. But we came here to actually visit her. And that was a huge turning point in my life because I decided to stay here
Mm-hmm.
with her. And that was a big trauma fight because that wasn't what was supposed to happen. And my grandma
But you
was,
go and visit her regularly? Is that it?
what's that?
Was she living here, or was she?
So she was moved up here in witness protection. So they
Okay.
placed her up here and no one was supposed to know where she was. And I hadn't had any contact with her other than a few phone calls for like 5 years before we came up here to see her. And that was a surprise, but it was a terrible surprise because I decided not to go back to college with my grandma in Florida. It was a whole thing. And then 6 months after I stayed up here with her, she was killed in a car accident.
Oh God. Everybody's got a story.
Right? Everybody, which is why I do what I do, because everybody has a story and you wouldn't know it all the time. Like, trauma people and people with these crazy stories don't always look the way you think they
Oh.
might. And so, anyway, I got married really young to my husband, and we had a daughter a year later, and then we both were trying to finish college still. And I ended up going on a management path. I got a bachelor's in business administration, a master's in management and leadership, spent 20 years managing people and doing things, and kind of had a midlife crisis come apart and realized I didn't want to do any of that. And I wanted to be a writer, which is what I wanted to do from the time I was small. And so I started kind of pursuing that, and I got a great job as managing editor for a very large website. And I worked for him started as a freelancer and then kind of worked my way up. And I was there total about almost 5 years. And then last year, about a week before Thanksgiving, he laid off myself and my entire team of writers.
Oh
Uh,
God.
right before, it was like a week before Thanksgiving, and I had just come home from a work trip that he sent me on, a conference, and I came back, and then like 3 days later we were all laid off. So that was terrible. And one of my writers was is actually a friend of mine too, and she lives here locally near me. And about a week after we got laid off, I said, "Hey, what do you think if we just start our own website? And this is kind of what I'm thinking. It'll be a positivity space like where we came from with, inspirational and motivational quotes and things, but I really want to help people share their stories." And so it's been a crazy ride because we have everybody from published, book authors like yourself, and then we have people who come to our local healing events that we do, and they would never get a chance to share their story because they don't have that platform. They don't have a book. They don't have a publicist, right? And they can't write. They're not writers, but I sit with them and we interview them and then we publish them on the website, and they feel they're so validated in their experience once it's out there and people can see. And it's just been so rewarding and so I mean, I make a living in words and I can't think of the word to say how this experience has been for me. It's just been so fulfilling, and that doesn't seem like enough to
Read my second book, because
your
exactly
second
what
book.
the second book is called The Island of the Four Ps. It's a fable, like Who Moved My Cheese or Gulliver's Travels. It's basically, my concept is that there are two kinds of education. One, teach you how to make a living. Second, teach you how to make a life. And what I want kids to do, and it sounds like you could have saved yourself 20 years. I want you to ask yourself the following questions: what are my passions? What are my
Mm-hmm.
principles? Who are
Yep.
my partners? And what are my
Yep.
plans? And I
Yep.
want that. And then your passions and all these things will allow you early in your life to test out what you want to do. Because titles of things, management. I mean, I
Right.
want to be a physicist. So I took an advanced physics course in my sophomore year. I looked around and said, this isn't for me. These are not my
Right.
people. So I
Right.
got
Not
the
my
hell out of there.
people.
But early on, if I get kids to do that, I
Yeah.
think that they'll be ahead a little bit. Now, my wife, I should say that my daughter worked for TED Talks, and
Hmm.
they weren't doing so well, and she was doing well, but she just quit after 7 years. And she spent time. She was on Wall Street, then Fortune, then Wall Street, and woke up one morning and I don't make money for rich people. Went to work for TED Talks. Had a great 7 years. Now she's freelancing. She
Yep.
wanted to write. She wanted to write, and she's now writing a book for someone. She's writing for a bunch of different people.
Yep.
The
Yep.
TED Talk call her back up. They're paying her more money working part time than she was working full time. So she
Nice.
jumped out on her own. See, my contention also is young people like you, or even younger, are going to have to pivot a number of times in their lifetime.
Yep.
So early on, they've got to find out who they are, and maybe
Yep.
there's something else in their personality that will come out later on in life where they can pivot to that very easily. So I think
Yeah.
that's the thing that I'm sort of pitching. And I've got 4 schools now. One school has 115 kids in it. And the other one, I went there, they were standing room only to see me, which was nice. Another
Nice.
school, they had 100 kids there around it. So I'm pitching this thing pretty hard because I think that this concept of how to make a life,
I love
when
that.
I graduated as an engineer. I mean, half the stuff I learned within 3 years was worthless because I was a slide rule guy. When I came out, was out of the Navy, it was computers. So it was
Hmm.
all gone. But this thing, if you graduate with a diploma and a life design,
Yeah.
that'll last a lifetime. I mean, I have it. This is what I did. I have these pile of yellow pads that I made decisions. And what I
Yep.
want kids to do is learn how to make better decisions. You have
I
you have
love
you
it.
have, you have a daughter, huh?
Well, I have a daughter and a son. The daughter
Oh, okay.
just got married last Saturday, so not like 2 days
Oh,
ago, but the Saturday
oh,
before. Yep.
grandma.
And then the our son is going to be 16 2 days after Christmas. So,
No, that's
yep.
good.
No,
They
no
they both they
grandkids.
both can stay in Montana.
They are both still here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where life will take us all eventually, but for right now, we're here. I would love to be a little closer to the coast again. I grew up in Florida, so it's a little odd for me not being near the water.
I'm back. I'm here. No, no.
Okay, I can kind of hear you.
Okay. I guess thank you. Did that come off all right? That was okay.
Yes, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Have a great day.
You
Take good
too, Ed.
care.
Bye
Take care.
bye.
Bye bye.